That's Stone. I'm Rob. We're hanging out. Always thinking of our guy Gunner too. All the best to Derek and the family, and hopefully things going in the right direction. But that's
we love you, D-Gun.
We've been in communication with them, good spirits, and that's half the battle. So all good on that front. All right, Tone. So let's look at it right now. So we have the standings in the NFC East. Or let's start with the NFC East, and then I want to dive into the NFC. So NFC East. Eagles 8-1, Cowboys 5-3. Keep in mind, the Cowboys have already had their bye, and they will play this week. They'll play the Giants. That is very likely to be a win. Okay, whatever. But right now, it's 2.5 games that the Eagles lead the Cowboys by. And then you have Washington at 4-5. You have the Giants at 2-7. So if we're being real about this, you can basically write off Washington and New York. That's over with. So you have the Cowboys definitely still in contention, no question, but they don't have a ton of wiggle room here going forward, which we'll get into in a minute. All right. So that's the NFC East. Let's just look at the NFC, which there's a couple more contenders that we're going to be, dealing with here. So Eagles are the 1 seed right now. If the season ended right now at 8-1, Detroit is 6-2. Then you have a couple of 5-3s, or a bunch of 5-3s, actually. San Francisco, Seattle, and Dallas. So Detroit is the team that right now is the closest to the Eagles. So real quick, let me just to extrapolate out this thing a little bit here with the schedule. So the next 5 games for the Eagles are at Kansas City, home against Buffalo, home against the 49ers, at Dallas, at Seattle. Certainly challenging. Let's just say they could go 3-2. This isn't crazy. They go 3-2 in that stretch.
They go 3-2. That would put them at what, 11-3?
11-3, right?
And that includes Chiefs, Bills, Niners, Cowboys, and Seahawks.
Right. So if you're sitting there at 11-3, you have 3 games left. What you have remaining after that is home on Christmas Day against the Giants. It's home the following week against the Arizona Cardinals.
Right.
And then you go to the New York Giants. That's arguably they're the 2 worst teams in football. If they're not the 2 worst, they're in the bottom 3 or 4. So if you need to win those games for home field advantage, I feel very confident that the Eagles can do that. If, in fact, they can rip those last 3 off, guess what? You're at 14-3 again for a second straight season. And in my opinion, that is winning you the 1 seed. You are the 1 seed, if that's the case.
Now, let me ask you this. So we agree that if they go 3-2, we're comfortable with that. We agree with that.
I am.
Now, where do you believe those 2 losses are coming from? As much as I hate to admit this, and listen, I would love to be proved wrong, obviously, but I believe the Eagles lose the Cowboys matchup. And other than after that, it's kind of hard for me to really pick it up. It's so hard for me to pick that second loss.
I think they could be 2-3. That's not crazy. But anyway, let's say it's 3-2. They absolutely lose the Cowboys game because it's going to be revenge for the Cowboys, and B, it's going to be a game they absolutely have to have as far as seeding goes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Dallas wins that game.
And again, Eagles fans, we want to be wrong. So if we're wrong, hey, let's do it. But
this is not. Yeah, this is just keeping it real. That's all it is. So they lose the Dallas game. I don't know, man. I have a kind of a weird feeling about the Kansas City game, and I know how good Andy Reid is off the bye. I have kind of a weird feeling like the Eagles can win this game in Kansas City. I know a lot of people have it chalked up as a loss, but I don't necessarily.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't have that chalked up as a loss either. You know what I mean? It's Monday night.
Yep.
Prime time. I think Jalen Hurts can win that game.
I do too.
If Jalen Hurts wins that game, that would be his best win of his career. You beat the Chiefs on the road at Arrowhead.
Right.
It doesn't get any more difficult than that.
Yeah. So if you, all right, let's just for the heck of it, hypothetically say they win that game. It's a tough game, obviously.
Okay.
But if they win that game,
I think they beat the Bills at home.
Beat the Bills at home. San Fran's tricky.
Very tricky.
That's a tricky game, man. And the other problem is they seem to never win in Seattle. So, man, this is tough.
Because here's my thing, right? I don't expect them to lose back-to-back weeks.
Right.
But it seems like the games that they're most likely to lose
are those last 2 out of that 5.
3 games, 49ers, Cowboys, and Seahawks.
I know.
So it's either beat 49ers, lose the Cowboys, beat Seahawks, or it's lose the 49ers, lose the Cowboys, beat Seahawks, or
this is tough, man. This is really tough.
This is tough.
You know.
This is tough, man. This is tough.
All right, let's say they win Kansas City, they beat Buffalo. All right, I'll say it right now. Beat Kansas City, beat Buffalo, lose San Fran at home, and that pains me to say it. Lose Cowboys, somehow figure out a way to win in Seattle. That's a weird way to get there, but that gets them there to 3-2.
And it's so crazy because those are 2 games that I would love to have.
I know. I know.
I
know. Believe me, I will loathe losing to the 49ers if that's the case.
Yeah. That will.
But the reason it's a little bit harder to handicap that one is like
we don't know who they are right now.
I know. I think San Fran responds. I do, but if they don't, then that looks way different. If Geno Smith keeps struggling, you know, I don't know what that Seattle game looks like if he continues to struggle here.
Okay, so you brought it up, right? For the 49ers, right? They may bounce back, they may not, but let's find out who they are right now.
Yeah.
You know, they won their first 5. Steelers, Rams, Giants, Cardinals, Cowboys.
Yeah.
They lost to the Browns, lost to the Vikings, lost to the Bengals. There's 3 losses in a row. They're coming off of a bye week. They got to go to Jacksonville. I'm really high on Jacksonville. I can't wait until we get to our power rankings because I'm really high on Jacksonville. I love the way they win games. They force turnovers. I love the way Doug Peterson has Trevor Lawrence going. I think they have a very solid group of receivers. Their receiver group, in my opinion, between Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk, I think that's a solid. You know, I think those guys are 2 B+ receivers. But you know, which is really good. And then they got Buccaneers, which I think they win that game. But you never know. The Buccaneers play people tough. You never know. And then they got Seahawks on the road, Eagles on the road, and then they got Seahawks again. That stretch right there, and then they got the Ravens on their schedule as well. So if they can't get healthy in time, and if Brock Purdy still doesn't recover from this 3-game losing streak, man.
Yeah, that could be it could be very different, man. It could be very different than what we're looking at right now. But all right, so for those purposes, let's say the Eagles are able to pull that off, and here we are. They're 14-3. Here's the problem if you're the Cowboys already with the 3 losses. Okay, so here's what they have coming up. Like I said, this week's a cupcake. They'll roll the Giants at home. There's no question about that. By the way, Tommy DeVito and Matt Barkley, who they just signed off the street, is backing him up. Dallas will destroy them. They'll destroy him. Okay. But you really don't have much wiggle room to lose really any more than maybe 1 game if you're Dallas. Now, the next week they go to Carolina. That should be a win. They have Washington at home. That should be a win. But then you get Seattle. Even though that's a home game, that's a tough game on Thanksgiving. That's that's the week after Thanksgiving. Sorry. You have Seattle on a Thursday night game. You have the Eagles at home. You go to Buffalo. You go to Miami. You have Detroit at home, and then you close it out with Washington. You really only have about 1 loss.
Tough.
Yeah, and there's only about 1 loss in there, Tone, that they can get and can have.
Exactly. And if we're being completely honest, man, people can say what they want about the Commanders. Sam Howell he's all right. He's all right, man. And I mean, like you said, we guarantee the Giants and Panthers win. But from after these next 2 weeks, nothing is guaranteed to them, in my opinion. Nothing. Right. Washington, Seahawks, Eagles, Bills, Dolphins, Lions, Commanders. I think they split with the Commanders. So that's already a loss right there. I think the Lions get them, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
Here's the thing: it's a pick 'em. Really, like after Commanders week, it's a pick 'em. It's a pick 'em.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, so let's just say, I mean, so that what my point of this all is, the Eagles are in really good shape here.
Yep. And
In the
another
NFC.
thing, Rob, really quickly, I'm sorry. Sorry
Yeah.
to cut you off. But another thing, let's just say the seeding holds true. Eagles
Yeah.
at the number 1 seed, Lions number 2, 49ers 3, New Orleans Saints 4, Seahawks 5, Cowboys 6, Vikings 7. Let's just say that holds true. And also, let's keep in mind, Washington may sneak in if the Vikings slip.
Yeah, they're not out of it. They're not out of it.
Right. But let's just pretend that those 7 teams hold true. Obviously, the Eagles would get the bye.
Yeah, there's only one bye. Remember last year that changed. So it's only one bye. There's not 2 like there used to be back in the day. Yep.
Right. So the Detroit Lions will end up facing the Vikings in a wild card, a divisional matchup, which would be awesome.
Yep.
And then, dun, 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 part 3 of the trilogy, the 49ers and the Cowboys would face off. Oof. And lo and behold, the 49ers would have home field advantage.
Yes. Yes.
The Cowboys don't want that.
No. Yeah. You're right. You're right. That's interesting. Yeah. If you play that out a little bit and look at it, that's interesting. Okay.
So I kind of want things to hold exactly the way they are, because let's just say, okay, obviously Eagles got by. Let's say Detroit beats the Vikings, right?
Detroit beats the Vikings. Yep.
Let's say the 49ers beat the Cowboys.
Okay.
And let's say the Seahawks beat the Saints.
Okay.
The Eagles will end up playing the Seahawks.
Right. The lowest seed.
And that's very winnable for them.
Yep.
And then
here, big difference between playing Seattle here and playing them there. No doubt.
Very, very big difference.
Yep.
And then that leaves Detroit playing the 49ers.
Yeah.
That's going to be a hell of a game.
Mm-hmm.
And it can as great as the 49ers can be. Are we looking at an Eagles, Detroit Lions NFC championship?
That would be really strange. It would be really strange. Oh my God. They haven't won a playoff game in 30 years.
Right. And
it's crazy.
Again, this
Jared
is all
Goff wasn't alive.
Right?
Jared Goff wasn't alive the last time that organization won a playoff.
Exactly. Look, this is all hypothetical. This is all hyperbole. We're having fun with this stuff, you guys. Yeah. But man,
well, let me give you a real quick tone on that theme.
Okay.
The team with the most favorable schedule by far is Detroit of all the teams we're talking about. So let me give you what they have. This is not easy, by the way. This week. They're at the Chargers. Chargers are, we know what they are, but that's not an easy one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Home against the Bears, home against Green Bay, at New Orleans, a little.
New Orleans, they're slick
because
they can either play really good a week or they can just crap the bit. Like it all depends on the time, the way the moon reflects off the ocean. The Saints are, I think,
bayou.
I think they're the biggest underachieving team in the league, honestly.
Yeah. But so that that one, that's a coin toss kind of game. Mm-hmm. At Chicago, I still think Detroit handles their business. Denver home, it's a sneaky game because the Denver's gotten better. You're right, it's a sneaky one. At Minnesota on Christmas Eve is a little tricky.
I love the way Dobbs has them playing right now.
Offensive player of the week in the NFC, by the way.
Was he?
Believe it or not, Josh Dobbs. Props to him.
You know what? I respect it.
I respect that guy, period. At Dallas on Saturday night. Ooh, that's a good one. On Saturday night, December 30th. That's a good game.
For my birthday.
Yeah, and then they close it with Minnesota at home. You know what? It is easy, but there's potentially a couple losses mixed in there.
And it's also because they're Detroit. You still got to look at them like that too. Like, you know what I mean?
Before I fully buy into them.
Even though they're let's really be honest about where their wins came from.
I like Tina's comp here, by the way. New Orleans are the Chargers of the NFC. She's right.
yes, I like that. I like that.
Yes.
But let's really consider where the Lions' wins have come from. Let's really, think about this.
Yeah.
They beat the Chiefs in week 1
without Travis Kelce and
Chris Jones. And they beat them by 1 point.
Yep.
I mean, they beat them.
They won. They won the game.
They won. I mean, it was on the road, so that was already working against them. They won the game.
Yep.
But it was week 1. Anything is liable to happen in week 1. Everyone knows that in NFL.
Yep.
But they won. So that's their biggest win of the season. After that, when they played the Seahawks, they lost. Then after that, that's when they won this one streak. They beat the Falcons, the Packers, the Panthers, the Buccaneers. How much stock can I put into those wins?
It feels a little Miami-ish.
And then you play the Ravens,
and you got
smoked,
blown off. Yeah, yep.
And then you played the Raiders the game before when
it was still a
before
disaster.
They fired McDaniel.
Yep.
So how much stock can I really put into this Miami or into this?
They're still in prove-it mode to me. Like I still need to see more before I totally buy into Detroit. I agree.
Absolutely, and that's where I am with them. It's a great story. I love seeing Detroit back in the mix. I love their uniforms, especially that new look helmet they have. I love everything that's going on over there. They're very talented. Front office is amazing. I just think they're a year ahead of schedule.
All right, let me give you San Fran now. Okay, San Fran's coming off a bye. We know they lost 3 in a row. They lost at Cleveland, at Minnesota, and home to Cincinnati. Okay, so here's what they have. Again, this is not easy by any stretch. They're at Jacksonville, home against Tampa. Okay. At Seattle, at the Eagles, Seattle again, at Arizona, Baltimore on Christmas Day at home, a night game. That's going to be fun.
I think Baltimore gets them on that one.
Yeah. At Washington, we'll see. Washington could be potentially still fighting for a playoff spot. Maybe. And then you close that against the Rams. So, and
they just signed Carson Wentz. We have no idea what's going to happen.
Yes. Which we'll get into that. We will get into the Carson signing. But again, the point of the whole exercise we're doing here is I like where things are setting up here with the Eagles. You get those 8 wins out of the chute. You go relax, get away from it, heal, whatever. Make some corrections if you're the coaching staff. I think you're in good shape here. Despite how hard these next 5 games are, and even if it ends up being 2-3, I still think they're a 13-4 team, which still should probably get you there.
Prior to the season, I had the Philadelphia Eagles being based off everything we know about the schedule, and I was trying to be very, judicious about it. I felt like at worst, the Philadelphia Eagles were an 11-16, and at best, they were 13-4 at best. But I felt like they would have been likely to go maybe 12-5. If they hold this up, and they've done their work early, if they hold this up, man, at minimum, they're going to be a 12-13 team, man. At minimum, man. And I think that still can get you the number 1 seed. But I think the magic number for the Philadelphia Eagles, as far as wins, you've got to get 13 wins.
I think 13 is the magic number.
Got to get 13
You don't
wins.
want to be playing around at 12-5 because that's when you open the door for Detroit, for Dallas, for San Fran. You don't want to give them that crack, man. I agree with you. I think you're fine at 13-4. I truly believe that you will be fine. I think you're locking yourself in at 14-3. But I think you're in good
14
shape
is the lock. 13 is the magic number, though.
You feel good about 13.
Yeah.
12, all bets are kind of off at 12. Man, that's crazy. It's competitive, man.
This second half of the season is going to be
it's gonna be wild.
I can't get over how competitive. I'm so intrigued to see how the AFC North plays out.
Oh,
I'm so intrigued by that.
Yeah, I agree. We talked about it yesterday. Harbaugh said it's the best division. I absolutely agree with him 100% head to toe. It's the best. I mean, 7-2, everybody else is 5-3. Baltimore is just out of their mind right now, the way that they're playing. But you talk about tough teams too. Really good defense, like Cleveland. Cincinnati's probably, other than maybe Baltimore, the hottest team in football right now. They've won 4 straight.
Yeah.
And they finally, the big thing for them is going to be Jamar Chase. We don't know about his back right now, but the way Burrow's playing, he still has Tyler Boyd. He still has T. Higgins. It's not like there aren't weapons there. Their defense is starting to make plays again. There's a lot going on with Cincinnati, but yeah, I mean, all of those teams, think about it. If I'm a team in the AFC, I don't care who it is, Kansas City, Jacksonville, Miami, whatever, I wouldn't want to face any of those teams in the playoffs. Like they're all really dangerous teams, I agree with you. I can't wait to see the way that plays out either.
Yeah, man. The Philadelphia Eagles, compared to the Chiefs, they have the biggest lead on their conference. Um, it's just, man, Chiefs 7-2, Ravens 7-2, Jacksonville 6-2. Because they've had their bye. Chiefs and Ravens, Chiefs on a bye week now. Ravens, I don't know when their bye week is. But man, oh man, when you can go all the way down to the 7th seed. You can even go as far down to the 8th seed with the Buffalo board where the Buffalo Bills are. And it's only a 2-game difference between the 8th seed and the 1st seed.
You ready for this? They don't have their bye week until week 13.
Who?
The Ravens.
Ooh,
that's late, man.
That's
late. That's December 3rd.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
You better hope these guys hold up. I know how beat up the Eagles are right now. But yeah, the game this week against Cleveland is monstrous. I mean, think about the next two. They're home. They have Cleveland home and Cincinnati home the next 2 weeks.
Right. And then they got the Chargers on the road. And I understand the Chargers are funny money, but you still got to pay attention to them.
Baltimore has a tough schedule. They do, man. Like they have to go to Jacksonville, go to San Fran, Miami home, Pittsburgh home.
And the Steelers are going to play them tough. They lost to the Steelers earlier this year.
Those two teams, doesn't matter what the record, and they both have good records, but doesn't matter what the records are, man. They just beat the heck out of each other.
That's what I'm saying. So this is like, I know everything looks fine and dandy for the Ravens right now. They look like the most dominant team in the league, but listen, their real schedule is about to start. Just like the Philadelphia, a lot of people talk about the Philadelphia Eagles having the toughest second leg of the season. Yeah. Listen, the Ravens are up there too, man. Like if you look at this schedule and not just like, because people talk about the 5-game stretch for the Eagles, right?
Yeah.
But if you just look at just the second leg of the season in general, you can make an argument maybe the Ravens have the toughest. You got Browns, Bengals, Chargers, Rams, Jags, 49ers, Dolphins, Steelers. And we know how their division plays them.
Yep.
Listen, man.
Agreed. Yeah, listen, agreed. All right, let's good stuff. Let's take a timeout.
Yeah, very fun segment.
Yeah, let's come back and do some Sixers Celtics tonight. We'll get you set for that. By the way, we will get into our NFL power rankings for the entirety of the league. I'll give you some updates on some injuries around the league, a couple other odds and ends, and we will dip into the Carson Wentz thing. We haven't gone there yet, but we will get into that a little bit heavy. There's some irony with where he's going, which we'll get into. So a lot to cover in the next hour and a half that we have coming up. Don't go anywhere. He's Tone. I'm Rob. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Let's talk about Pro Action Restoration. Actually had an issue. I've told you guys about this. I had some flooding in my basement, and it has been a pain in the butt, to say the least. So I had the folks from Pro Action Restoration come out today and take a look to get their opinion and to see what they could do here. And I got to tell you, man, I dealt with Mike, and he was absolutely unbelievable. He was unbelievable. Explained things to me, exactly the way the process works, what he saw, what he needed, what he needed to get me ahead of, and that kind of stuff. It was an awesome experience. They're on call 24 hours, 7 days a week to assist you, whether it's water, fire, smoke damage, mold remediation. I have water damage, which caused some mold, and they're doing their best to work on everything for me, and I'm thankful that I got them. They're licensed, bonded, fully insured. They've been serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades. Pro Action will work in conjunction with your insurance company. So again, could be water, fire, smoke damage, mold remediation, you name it, they can handle it. Give them a call, 610-623-3760, 610-623-3760, or online at proactionrestoration.com. That's proactionrestoration.com.